All right, welcome back. We are game 3004 in the winter 2021 semester, and it is week 7, part 3 of our recording broadcast. And this is the afternoon session of presentations for our midterm checkpoint. Just to start off again, people just joining us today, we have where we are. We're at the bottom of the semester. Again, we're week 7. Where we're doing our project checkpoint. Next week is our break week. And next, when we get back from break, week 9, we're into mobile development. So this is where we're going to switch from WebGL to mobile, like we talked about before. So there's a lot more coming down the pipe when it comes to the work we're going to be doing. Last week we worked on nav mesh components, a bit of a health system with a health bar, some destructible object ideas, but we never actually did it. We did talk about billboarding and how that works, and we also did a little bit of outlining and selecting of objects, which I showed you a couple of methods on how to do that. This week, again, we're doing our project checkpoint, and your presentations are being recorded. Just keep in mind when you get back, the week you get back, your third playable release will be due on the Sunday of that week. Other items that you have to think about are the 6th weekly report that is due this week, so please don't forget to do that. Also, I just wanted to mention that the bonus labs there's very little participation in the bonus labs. This is an opportunity for you guys to get bonus marks for things that you've missed and to boost your mark at the end. Again, the people that are doing it are the people that don't need it typically, but I appreciate all the participation in the labs as much as possible as we go forward. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to share with you the order of presentations that are remaining. So let's get into this. So here is where we're sitting. We've done all these presentations here, and the last ones that are going are Daniel, Michael, and Alex, and then we're done for the day. So those are the 3 presentations we have left, and we'll be done kind of probably in the 4 o'clock range. All right, so without further ado, Daniel, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If you can share your screen and go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, nice. Let me share my screen.
Are you coming a little low though? You can, if you can come in a little bit, yeah, a little bit louder.
Let me try to bump up my volume. Is it better now?
Much better.
Okay, awesome. Let me go back to the sharing the screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm also going to share with you guys the link. Oh no. How can I do this now? Is there a way to go? Yeah. Oh, okay. Here.
On the chat in the middle there. You can
there
see
you go.
Yeah.
So you guys can play the game also. So hello, my name is Daniel Boldring. I'm the lead software engineer, and I'll be presenting our game Nailed Down. I'm going to introduce our team. There's myself. There's Bruno, the game producer, Brian, the game designer, and Emmanuel, our UI and tools programmer. So a little bit about our game. And we're going to be starting as a regular worker on a construction site, and a zombie outbreak just starts, right? So the beginning of the game, you're going to have to do like easy tasks as puzzles to keep going, like advancing into the game and reach the end of the levels until we finally escape the city. Those were our influences, but you're not limited to those here. We also got some ideas from Inside or Limbo, those kind of side-scrolling games that have like an idea more deep thinking of puzzles, not only like battles or shooting. This is the look that our game has right now. As you can see, we are focusing more on having a UI for mobile. So you have the joysticks and the button to action over here. We thought of a way to minimize the way of like inputs, so the player can use the cell phone very easily. So the way to change the weapon, I'm going to show soon, is just by pressing the button over here, and to pause, it's also over here. So we have 4 inputs into the screen. This is the look of the melee combat that we have ready, and we will implement the shooting combat also. This is the list of what we achieved so far. It's easier to say what we are still working on, which is the inventory system. I'm going to make it able to drop items and check the state of your weapon. So for example, your gun will show the ammunition that you have, or for the hammer, we will show like the damage per second. Also, we're still working on resource gathering, basically because we get 3D models, sound effects all the time. So I think this is going to be working on until the end of the project. And also we need to work on the options, because the first idea we had for the UI doesn't work with what you want, right? What you expect in the end. So you will have to rethink the options menu completely. Okay, so let me get started by showing over, maybe over here. I lowered down the volume, so it might be very low, but that's okay, better than the opposite. Our logo here with some effects. So this is the main menu. We can access all the options from here. Let's start with credits here. Okay, looks like I just being sent all the way back there. That's weird. But there's everybody else here. Probably because I was doing the options. Yeah, we have to rethink the options menu. So far, just the main menu works here. We will have to extend this to fit more options in the screen. And then there's new game. Over here, we will see all the levels, right? And the idea is to animate those as you click them, right? So let's go to the first level here. We're gonna get started over here. So the zombie outbreak just started, and our friends are telling us to get some supplies, right? So hurry, get that box. Which box? This one. It's over here in the mini map also. We have the tutorial or showing up here. So when you get close to the box, he will pick up automatically and start walking. You can run also with it, but you cannot jump. And as soon as you bring it to the van or the truck, it just leaves you here, and you have to like keep going by yourself, right? So in here it tells you how to run, and you can see our collectible that we have here rotating with some parkour effects. This is going to be just for secret endings and this kind of stuff, like secret modes and assets. So if you collect them all, you're going to see secret stuff. Over here, you can carry this item and bring it to the engine. Awesome. So bringing to the engine makes the platform go up and down. So let's collect this one here. So you cannot continue over here, it's too high. There's the normal footstep sounds and metal footsteps. We can push this box out of the way here. I was supposed to get on top of the box to get that one over there. Okay, so with the box here, we can, oh, finally cross over here. For the WebGL version, as you mentioned, I took off all the shadows, but the version for the Windows, they work because it was slowing very, very much the game. So in here we collect our hammer. There's an animation for collecting it, and we can left click to attack. Some platforms, some objects, they have a script that detects when the camera is too close to it, and so it disappears, so you can see what's happening. Let me break this fence over here. This is a zombie. It has an animation when he spots you and he tries to attack you also. He reacts to our attacks and he dies. Awesome. We have some lights that turn on because, for example, it's someone hiding herself here. So they are scared of some noises outside, right? So they just try to hide there. We have a breakable platform. So we can pick up this one and turn on this one here. Let me show the damage that we have when objects fall on top of us. We die and we respawn to the last checkpoint. So let's go back here. We have this zombie here. I'm gonna just wait it till it's very close to the edge because zombies also die when they fall. Yeah, I can hear him dying. When I get hit, there's a very slow animation of. Oh, I just lost control. Strange. Something happened here. Let me quickly reload and go to the end of the level very quickly. Also, meanwhile, Tommy, there's one problem that is very specific. Is there a way to ask about that problem later after the presentation?
Absolutely. We'll do that.
Okay, thank you. This is one of the problems. It doesn't update the animations correctly on the WebGL. So let me get very quickly to the end of the level. You don't have to collect everything to finish. So I will let the secrets for everybody to discover on their own. Yeah, so like here, I just refreshed the game and some animations, they don't update correctly in the WebGL. I just want to show the last section of the level, which... Oh, okay. Oh yeah, you have fall damage also. And the zombie just killed himself to go attack me. So this is the stealth section. So our character goes automatically into a crouching state here. And we can see some zombies are patrolling over here. If I go over here when they're not looking, they don't find me. But if they're looking at this way and I go out, they will all spot me and this will trigger the AI to come after me. And then I can climb this ladder here to go to safety. This is the end of the level 1. You can see how many collectibles we have. And we can select our option. Let's go to the next level. We start on the top of the building here. And we have to keep going. There's just one more thing that I want to show you guys, which is this platform here. It's the side-scrolling platform here. The horizontal moving, I mean. So it brings with it. And this will be a new hazard that we have to wait until it stops so we can go through. And pretty much is the same thing. We're gonna have to collect more items and go to the next objective. And this is how far we went so far. Oh, And also, let me show you one thing. There's the weapon selection here, so we should tap it. We don't have the weapons right now, but this is going to be the way to select the weapon. And if you die with an item, for example, you respawn with it. So yeah, this is the end. I need to program this platform now.
So yeah, lots of stuff. That's
Oh.
really great stuff that you got going on there.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention the pause menu.
Great stuff. Really, really good. So to me, I think generally, just to talk briefly about your slides, that doesn't take center stage for me, but I think some of the same things I talked about earlier, if you were here in the first part in the lecture,
Yes.
I probably would have changed a couple slides. These ones are okay, but the other one, the overview slide, I probably would have added. You've got a great opportunity here to break this slide deck down in a couple of slides, show some zombies, show some models, give us an idea visually of what this thing is going to look like. I think if you did that, that would make this slide deck even better. Same thing goes with the like a kind of more of a close-up. I like your theme.
Yeah.
Go to the last part, the last slide, slide 7. Slide 7 also needs to be broken out in a couple slides or reorganized, maybe like in 2 columns. You know, one of those kind of things, maybe with some color for completed and not completed. But you got a lot of stuff going, a lot of stuff completed here. So so again, you lost some points, but for your slide deck, also maybe a theme that you want to put in your slide deck that matches your you know, your entire game, I think might be good. But I think your overall, it's okay. If we go to your game now, this is where I want to spend more of the time. I think you presented well. You know, the way you did it was good. You're organized. Those are good things. You shared your live link to your site. This is also good. I love your field of view and that the fact that you know, things in the background are hazy looking and you only focus on the front. That's really great. A great use of post-processing effects, right? Or camera, you know, camera work, I think is really good. The style of your game, like the whole aesthetic, which looks very basic for buildings and all that kind of stuff, but very detailed for the character, is good. It works, right? I think it's good. Lighting is fairly good. You could probably still include some shadows, but instead of having multiple cascades like you would for the desktop version, you can only have, you can talk about how you can increase, you can still have shadows, but only one cascade or 2 cascades, right? So that way it's, you can reduce the, you can reduce some of this. Well, now some of the things that you do, which are interesting, is you have both an animated type of fire as well as particle effects. I'm not sure if that was intentional.
Yes.
Or why, you know, why you made those choices, but you may want to just stick with the animated effects instead of the particle effects. Like try and have, like, this looks really good. The animated fire is very, you know, interesting the way you did that. You know, as opposed to you know, using the particle effects, which also look good, but they're very different. The way your menus work, which are very 3D-ish and all that kind of stuff, and the way you kind of move from one menu to the other, you're moving your camera around in your menu and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, this kind of work here, it gives it a more cinematic feel to the game. It really uses the, you know, your you know, level. I mean, I think what you've done, and this is where, I mean, obviously a lot of I'm not sure if any of these assets are your own, but the assets that you've downloaded and you use from the asset store, you've made very good use of them, I think. And I think you have a good idea of what your game is going to be like. So if, as an example, you had a professional artist to redo some of this stuff, right? And you know, you make your own assets as an example, right? Because that's what you probably want to do if you were going to produce this game, you know, for commercial use, right? I think you've got a really great feel of what your assets should look like, and this is why we're doing this. This is almost like gray boxing in some ways. We're looking at the scene and we're saying, okay, this is really good work, you know, and here's what we would do. We'd make our own assets. You could even make your own assets look almost identical to these, right, as an example. But you know, that, you know, so it's just, there's a lot of little elements you put in here that work really, really well for me. I think that's a good thing. I'm super impressed by the way you're using your assets, and the game idea is really neat. A lot of stuff, like when you put you know, some of the text that you've got there, which is in world space, it looks like it's in world space, not in
yeah, it's
in
a model
space. It's really great.
I did it on Blender.
Yeah, it's I mean, again, it gives us the right look and feel, right? And the only thing that I would say is, like, you could, when you were, I don't know, when you were, if you go the other way, when you're in that stealth part of the scene,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where when you're in the stealth portion of the scene where you've got all the zombies look up at once. What you may want to do is give it a little bit of a random interval when they kind of spot you.
Yeah,
So they don't all look up at once. You give a little bit of variation, so that way some of them might look up at the same time. Other ones there might be a delay, and you got to play with that a little bit to give more of a realistic, like almost like, hey, look, we got this. Who is this thing? And
yes,
they're going to
exactly.
come after you, but they're going to come after you with a bit of a delay. Some randomization might work really well in your favor in that case. Let me see what else. Lighting, again, for the lights in the scene are interesting. They're very bland, like, what I'm saying, it's like just lit, but it's wholly lit with no gradient whatsoever.
Yeah, I
Again, you
had
may
to
want to
take
think
off
about,
some effects, right?
yeah, you may
Because
want
of
to
the
use
web.
some other kind of effect there, as an example, as opposed to just that. And of course, you can have multiple enemies, which is something you haven't had a chance to use yet, right? Because you're supposed to have a couple of different enemy types. Right now, you're
Yeah,
showing one,
the
right?
patrolling one is going to be a different one. I just need to get a new model.
Yeah, that's all it is. I think it's once you start incorporating your other enemy types, I think it'll look really great because it'll give enough variation. So here's what I was talking about. See how they all pop their heads up? So, like, show yourself now. Don't worry about selfing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they all kind of look at you all at the same time. This right
Yeah.
here. See how they do that? That looks unnatural. It looks more like machine-like or mechanical, right? And you want to try and make it more organic. And the way to do that is to add some variation and maybe different models there, different kind of enemies as well, would
Mm-hmm.
make it look more interesting as a crowd of a crowd of zombies. The transition that you did from one level to the other, again, speaks volumes to your design. You're using interesting other people's assets, but I think the way you're doing it when you use the people's assets is really working for me. Like, that kind of stuff I think is really great. So I think those things and the way you've done this stuff and the progression you've made for your game, to me, is fantastic. I really love what you've done. And again, I think this is some really creative design, lots of talent happening here, and a lot of craft making this work. Right. So really great job, guys. The people on your team and you, fantastic work. I can't, it's probably one of the best things I've seen today.
Thank
So
you.
great job.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
And then if you hang out later on, I'll help you with your animation problems.
Yeah, for sure. Thank
All
you.
right. But otherwise, great work. Your marks have been updated. Again, and let's go on to the next group, which is Michael's work. Michael's group.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right, that's a great job, guys. It's gonna be tough to follow up after you guys after that. Let's begin my sharing here. How do I? Okay, share computer sound, right?
Yeah, you can share
That's what
computer
I
sound
need.
and or make it so it's if you're going to share video, but video is only great if you're showing a video. It really
It's for the gameplay demo itself to be able to
Yeah.
hear the audio effects.
Exactly. Okay, go ahead.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm representing our studio Ooftown Games, and I'm going to be showing you guys our game Yikers Island. So let's meet the team. On the left side, we have Nisara, Kevin, and Phoenix. Nisara is our producer, Kevin is our lead software engineer, and Phoenix is our gameplay programmer. On the right side, we have myself as the generalist programmer, Nathan as our game designer, and Jesse as our tech artist. We are all audio, software, and generalist programmers. So, what's our game? Well, you're a survivor of a crashed colony ship on a strange alien planet. You have funded the colony of Yikers Island in honor of the ship's late commander, William Thelonious Yiker. You must protect the main hub of your fledgling colony from the planet's native monster bug creatures. You must also gather resources to grow the colony and shore up its defenses. So, what's our game about? Well, our mechanics are tower placement, resource management, stationary combat, strategic planning, and wave management. This is standard in any tower defense game. You want to be able to place towers where you want them. You have to manage your resources accordingly to be able to place a tower. The stationary combat is once you make the decision, that tower is there and you have to live with it. And that ties into the planning. The wave manager it increases the difficulty as the game goes on, and it lets you face an endless horde of enemies. Some of the dynamics that we focused on is being able to place the towers. So currently they're being placed anywhere, whereas we want to improve it and be able to place them on our grid. Being able to use the tower strategically to destroy enemies. Our game is different from regular tower defense in that the enemies don't follow a set path the whole time. They can come from all around the map. And so you have to be very careful where you place your towers, because if they're on the wrong side and enemies spawn far away, you're in trouble. We also have being able to navigate the environment, so you can quickly find where the enemies are and be able to fight them. Some of our aesthetics, we have a very sci-fi theme, as you can see here. We have the laser blasts, we have bloom effects, the alien ants, inspired by StarCraft, Star Trek, and various other star properties. The player towers look sturdy and comforting. The enemies are pointy and creepy. So we want to give visual feedback as well to the world mechanics. So we have the health bars, we have the animations, the targeting. So all the towers face the enemies when they attack for the attack towers. And it's all about providing that feedback. So some of our features, we have our tower placement. So when you're placing a tower, you have first a little prototype version of it. And then when you finally build it, then you get the full completed model. And so this prototype version, when I'll show in our demo, it has all these effects, like a little transmat effect that makes it look really cool. And eventually your tower will be built, and it has its own animations as well. The resource management is part of the strategy of the game. So it's all about this cycle here of energy, ore, and plutonium. So the plutonium towers, we have nuclear towers and energy. So the energy towers, they produce the energy, powers the mining towers to produce the ore. And then our ore we use to build the attack towers. And then the attack towers kill the enemies, which give us plutonium, which then lets us do the energy. So it's all one cycle. So here again is some of our inspiration. You can see the towers, how they're really sturdy and robust, whereas the enemies are very alien and insectoid-like. I'll be showing you some more of that later, but these are just some of the inspirations that we had in terms of the design. Some of the common requirements that we did. So camera controller, completed. Inventory system, completed. Health system, completed. Minimap, check. Enemy AI is in progress. Our pausing, saving, and loading as well, that is in progress. We have sound effects and music, but the features are in progress. Now, our inherited tower defense requirements, that extends our common requirements. For the resource gathering, we have that completed. So whenever you're able to kill resources and all the tower placements, those all give us the resources. Our tower types, that is in progress. They're feature completed, but the assets themselves are still in progress, some of them. Enemy types, we have 2 out of 3 done. So the remaining one is in progress. Tower placement, we have the drag and drop feature put in. Our spawning is able to spawn in, but we're still working on the grid placement to be able to have a bit more restriction there. We have a wave manager as well. It works most part, but we wanted to be able to scale more with the waves and the difficulty, and also have a separate pattern of dynamic enemy spawns. So here's a nice little gallery of close-up images of some of our towers and enemies. So on the left, we have the insect. The middle is our attack tower. The right is our atomic tower. And here's our home hub. And here's just a close-up of the tower transmat of it being built. Here's a quick little preview of what is to come as well and what's under construction. So this is our flying enemy. And you can see it looks really cool. Jesse did an amazing job rigging it and doing all the bones for it. And so we're really excited to push this for a future update. It's not currently in the build, but we're very excited when it will come out. Now let's take a look at our game. I'm going to post the link into the chat. So how do I see the chat there? How do I post it in the chat?
You click on the chat, and it should be in the middle of your screen there. See it? Or it could be on the corner. It could be on the little ellipses. More, it says more.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Didn't pop up. Oh, okay. There we go. So here we have our GitHub page of the build, so we can be able to play it. So let's jump right into it. So when we load in, we'll take into our main menu. So we can go on the instructions, just a very simple instruction screen. We have our options. Here our volume works. I'll leave that a little low just so that way you guys can still hear everything. And we have our credits as well. So let's jump into a game. So here we're taken into our world. We only have currently our home hub, and we have our enemies spawning in. We have to be aware of our mini map to see where the enemies are coming from to be able to place towers. So now let's place our first attack tower. We just click over here to select the tower type, and then we right click to place them. Our enemies also have a they have different targeting priorities. So these enemies focus on targeting attack towers. If we have an atomic tower, let's say, you can see here the effect now live with the visuals, how it looks. And so now when we place this tower, there's different targeting, and this one increases our energy. So now when these guys get in range...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I get you to turn on the music a little bit more?
Yeah. Just go back to the main menu.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So it's hard to hear you.
All right, we also have the button effects. So we also have a speed up feature. So now we're going to make them go a little faster. You can see they're moving a lot more. Our tower attacks much faster. Let's place some more towers there. So those use the ore. Some of these are still being under development, like the mining tower. So we just have placeholders currently for that, but we are working on improving those and getting those in. So there you'll see how the enemies deviated towards their priority attack target of the attack towers. And now we're on wave 4. You can see our energy. We also have obstruction walls, so we're able to see and block off the path. And other types of enemies will target walls. Other types of enemies will target the energy towers. And so it'll create the dynamic of what you have to do in order to be able to successfully pass the game. So currently, just for testing, this is like a sandbox mode, and we only go up to wave 10, just so that way we can go to the winning screen, but we will be making it an endless mode with increasing waves. Our island here has, let's go back to our full regular speed. We have a water effect surrounding it, so this is our island. We're able to zoom in and out to a certain extent. We're able to get in nice and close if we need to. And so we are also able to see all that and the enemies in our towers in the mini-map. We're almost done the last wave. Let's just speed it up so we can get to our victory screen. And there it'll display your final score if you do win. And then we also have a game over here, which is the debug button, because the enemies, we're able to damage them. However, in progress is still the enemies being able to attack our towers. And yay, we won. So we can play again, and it'll take us here. Then if we lose, let's say, it'll take us to our game over. And so the enemies, they spawn randomly around the map. So it's never the same. So if we place a tower here and they come from all the way this side, they'll attack our home tower, which we don't want, and we won't be able to kill the enemies. So you have to be very careful with this multi-pronged attack approach. And so as the waves get higher and we improve our wave manager to be able to get more enemies coming in and different variety, it'll become much more complex. So you'll see there they're attacking, and now we can take them away to save our home hub, because this is our one and only home. And that is our game. I hope you guys enjoyed.
All right. Thank you for that. Let's briefly about, can you just bring up your screen again? Sorry, Michael.
Oh, sure.
For your I got really only positive things to say about your slide deck, just going back to that. I think it's exactly what I want. So for other people who have seen, you know, the group of slides that you've made, you've themed them, you've got your game, it's really highlighted, and you've used your background for the game itself to demonstrate, you know, the slides. There's not that many words, and it's kind of, it tells a story. You've talked to it as opposed to making us read it, which is really great. I think, again, it's probably the best slide deck I've seen today, right, in terms of everything that you've done. So really great work on that.
With the slide deck, would we be able to resubmit it because we did make some tweaks since the last submission?
Yeah, you have until tonight to submit everything, if I'm not wrong.
Awesome.
Right. So so I think that's really great. That goes for everybody, by the way. In terms of your game, if you go back to your game, I know the technical properties of your game, things I really loved, the fact that you showed future work as well in Blender. Kudos to Jesse for putting that stuff together and the models that you guys made. Amazing. Really great work there. And that just shows you the depth of where you're willing to go to make your own, you know, look and feel and all that kind of stuff of, you know, for the game elements. I think the things that you need to do, if you go back to your game now, the rest of it needs work. Your UI, especially. I think who's your UI person? Who's the person working on UI?
I built all the UI, so just all the transitions and such.
Yeah,
but I do understand what you mean. It is a bit bland.
I mean, I think all your UI elements need to be revamped.
Yeah.
In general. I think it's they're nice placeholders to understand where they're going to be in the screen. Like, I think the functionality is what I'm really happy with. The fact that everything works the way it should, and I saw the progress that you made on your on the game itself throughout the entire time. I think it's really, really good. Technically, right? I think what it needs to do is it has to be more beautiful in terms of your user interface. So I'm just, and I know it's hard, but
I perfectly agree with you.
Comparing it to what I saw just previously to this, which was Daniel's work, right?
Yes.
There's some great examples of what he did with his elements that we can all learn from in terms of placement and so on, right? So I think, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think technically you're great with what you have. I think once you have your UI going, this is going to be an awesome game, like really, really awesome in terms of the way it works and you know, your thoughts for mobile and everything else. And now your inventory system, again, I think all that, the way you do your inventory at the bottom and your drag and drop elements and all that stuff, I think, again, all those, the technical work behind it is great. And your theme is awesome. I just think that you need to continue to iterate on how your user interface looks for the entire game so that it matches with the aesthetic that you've developed for your elements, like your 3D elements, right? So I think if you did that, and I'm not suggesting that Jesse, you know, do it, but whoever's going to work on your user interface to create those elements, I think that's the key to making this game go to the next level in terms of, you know, how it's going to look. Everything from the way your text sits on the screen. I know it's all placeholder right now, guys, and it's gray boxing that you're doing, the sandbox mode that you have and everything else. But I'm just saying those are the elements that you have to change, and especially your game over screen, which is
like all these towers here. It's a lot of placeholder stuff because they were still under development. So we just had like the
whole functionality makes me really happy. You know, I'm saying that the functional part of the game is and the progress you've made on making this a tower defense game, the way that you're teleporting your towers in and all that effect, that I guess that's a shader effect that you're using or whatever. All those kind of elements are awesome. I think it's just, you know, it needs to be improved. The menu screen, this screen here, it needs love. The instruction screen definitely needs love. Like, it needs, you know, more than just this. You may also want to think about, you know, giving more of a tutorialization, even though it's not required, tutorializing your game. Again, I was a little bit spoiled with the last thing we saw, right? So, but anything like that is better than a flat UI that you have right now in certain cases, right? So, and it looks like this thing doesn't really quite work.
It was working on something. I don't know why it's not working on WebGL.
Okay.
But
it's part of the loading and saving is always tricky and stuff anyway. But anyway, those are the things I think. But overall, I think I love what you've done. Really great work for everybody here and as the team. And again, I think from what I've seen from you guys, it's it's really progressing well. I think you guys are going to have a fantastic game at the end and a really great showpiece for your final year at George Brown. So great job, guys. Really great job.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. Your marks are going to be posted in a second. So very good. Again, just those minor things that you have to fix. So the last group that we have on deck here is Alex's group, which is also a tower defense game. And so Alex, whenever you're ready.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Are you able to hear me?
Yep.
You can see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Awesome, okay. So we are the Midnight Gamers. This is our virus defense tower defense game. I am Alexander Barnes. I am the game producer for the group. We have Abel on the art and the audio assets. We have Yangu, our gameplay programmer, Yu Yang Ma, our generalist programmer, John, our lead software engineer, and Elijah Tong, our game designer. So a bit of an overview of our game. So the name of the game is Virus Defense. It's a tower defense game where you're in charge of the immune system of a body while it's under attack from a virus. Using a combination of low poly and cartoon style assets, we're able to provide a fun, casual feeling experience, hopefully allowing the player to get away from the seriousness of the pandemic and let out some frustrations beating the virus. And I have some pictures there of the tower assets and a couple of the enemy assets that we are using in the game. Our game level right now, the bottom right is the current level that you will play on the, if you go to the link, I'll put that in the chat in a second. We are working on redesigning the level. So we have this map on the bottom left, that's on a separate branch right now. It's still in progress. So the game level is still like, we're still working on it. It's not like at the level of polish that we're looking for. The mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics of the game. So the mechanics are pretty similar to a typical tower defense where the waves of enemies will spawn in and they move along a path towards the enemy's base. We are working on a system for the mutations. It's not in the game yet, but in the future, at the beginning of the waves, the enemies will have a chance to mutate and it'll change some of their things like how much damage they do, their health and their movement speed and stuff like that. When the enemies are killed by the turrets, they have a chance to drop some resources. And then the player will use those resources to purchase more towers or upgrade the towers that they have. The dynamics of the game, due to the mutations and the changing of the behaviors of the enemies, the player will have to constantly change their strategy to beat the game. For example, if you have a enemy that already has a high movement speed and they mutate and get a boost to their movement speed, so they're going to be really quick now, you're going to have to probably put a lot of resources into the towers that slow down the enemies, so you have enough time to kill those ones. You'll also be having to weigh and balance, like, where am I going to spend my resources right now? Should I build a bunch more towers? Should I upgrade the towers that I already have? Things like that. Also, the score that the player receives is based on their performance in the level. So if you are able to beat the level and you don't even let an enemy touch the base, then you get some bonus points for that. And then that might encourage the player to try and play again or play more smartly so that they can get those bonus points. In the previous slide, I already mentioned a bit of the aesthetic, but we are using some low poly assets, like a cartoonish style. We're not like going for like really like realistic visuals or anything like that, just something really casual. Our game type requirement progress. So these are the specific things that we need for this group. So they're all in progress, but the reason I put that is, like, for example, for our resource gathering, we do have this asset, the DNA resource asset, and the functionality is completely working, but we are planning to have 2 resources. So we just have 1 resource functioning right now, and the other one is in progress. A similar thing for our tower types. Right now we do have 2 towers that are working, but our total plans is to have 4 towers. So we're still working on those other two. And then the enemy types as well. We have 2 enemies in the level and working and stuff, but we have a third one, which is this little guy here, who's not in the game and not working yet, but that will be there in the future. We are still working on the visual aspect of our game. Like when you play, you'll see we're missing things like the animations on the turrets and such, and also things with the enemies. We do have the assets for the animations. It's just we didn't have time to get those set up and running. We are also planning to add some things like some particle effects and stuff, because when we play the game, we notice it's kind of hard to notice like what's going on in some cases, like when, for example, when the enemy drops their resources, there's nothing that really kind of draws your attention to it, so you might not even notice that the resource is there. So for the visual aspect of the game, I think we still have quite a bit of progress to go for that. Okay, there we go. We also have some areas of refinement that you'll see when we go into the game. We recently were redesigning the level. So doing that, we made it a lot bigger, and we didn't account for the scale of things like the player's health, not the player's health bar, sorry, the enemy's health bars. So they're kind of small and a little bit difficult to see. So that is something we'll have to work on, as well as the camera, the angle of the camera, as well as the rotation that we're using for it right now. That is also something that we have to refine a bit. The turret placement system as well. Like you'll see these gray blocks that are in the level, and that is just meant as an indication as to where you can place the tower. That's not something that we plan to leave in the game for the finished version. And then as well as the lighting, we have to work on coming up with some different lighting methods. Here is the game link. I can post that in the chat right now for the class if they want to check that out. Here, where's the chat? Chat's not popping up for me.
You go to the ellipses and you
Oh,
click on
here. I see. Okay. Yep, there is the link, and I can go play it now. Can you hear the music or no?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. I think it might have been the same issue as the previous student that was using multiple monitors, where it doesn't let you.
Have you clicked on sound? Because when you share if you go to the ellipses, again, and on the right there it'll say
share sound.
It'll be an option to share sound.
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, awesome. So yeah, this is the game menu. I'll turn the music down a little bit. The music volume slider works for the music. The sound one does not work for the like the effects in the game yet, but we are working that. So the music volume slider works, and then I'll take us into our level. The UI is a little messed up for the GUI. I mean, for the this build of the game, because we were originally doing it like setting it up for the simulator in Unity, and then we had to switch it over. But I was able to get the menu looking all right in the web hosted version, but I wasn't able to get the game UI set up properly. I think there's some issue with the anchors and stuff like that, but as long as you put it to full screen, it should work fine. So yeah, here we have in the back is the heart, which is the player's base. The enemies are spawning in. We aren't using a nav mesh. We have a waypoint system that is used to tell the enemies where to go. It's basically just a list of transforms. And then once the enemy gets to one of them, it will get set to move to the other one. So as you can see, some of our health has gone down, as well as some of our resources. And you'll see in a second when I place a turret here that one of the enemies will actually attack the turret. It might be difficult to see, but the turrets will have a health bar as well. So that little capsule there, like I said, it's hard to see, but that is one of the resources that they can drop. So if I click on that, it'll add to my resources, and then I can use that to spawn more turrets. So these are the two different turrets that we have working right now, turret 1 and turret 2. One's like a catapult one. This one can slow them. and this one does have a higher damage, but the rate of fire isn't as large. You can click on the tower, it'll tell you like the range of the tower, like where it can attack. You can also upgrade the tower. So if I wanted to upgrade it, you'll see it takes some of my resources. We do have a little bit of refinement to do on that. Like when you upgrade it, they do get a little bit too strong. Like they're way too powerful once you upgrade it once. So we'll have to adjust that a bit, but you can also just sell it if you don't want it anymore. We have our pause menu that's working. Our rotations are like they work, but like I said, they need some more refinement. Just because when we designed it, our map was a lot smaller originally. And it was kind of like an oversight that we're obviously gonna have to adjust where the camera rotates to when you're using the bigger map so that you can get basically everything in frame. Since we're going to eventually switch to mobile, I think we will eventually have it like this kind of landscape, like where it's vertical, just because it will make more sense. Like if you hold your phone sideways, you'll have some more real estate, and we'll put the path that the enemy takes along there as well. It'll take a while for us to get to the game over screen just because the health is so high. I can switch to the editor if you want me to demonstrate going to the game over screen, but it's just it shows the final score, and it'll have some buttons if you want to replay the mission or go back to the main menu or whatnot.
Yeah, it's okay. No, I think we got the essence of what this looks like right now.
Okay. Did you have any questions? You want me to go over anything else?
No, I'm just going to give you some feedback. So I think that
Are you talking?
yes, I said there's a bit of some slides that are a little bit fat with text. That's what I would say. You know, so I'm just talking about your slides first.
Oh, sorry, my audio is cutting out a bit.
I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just me. Anyway, so if you go to, for example, slide 3, I would probably start with some bullets here instead of this. You don't need all this detail. No one's going to read it. Same thing goes with slide 4, and slide 5 is good. You got bullets here, but the thing is with this one, I probably would break it out either multiple slides with showing more images, like I said before, or make it into columns. So we've kind of talked about this over and over again. Slides I really like. If you go to slide 6, I think the overview is not bad. I think, you know, I've seen, you know, what you can do, but slide 7 is interesting. And well, I never asked for this, but you said, here's the visuals to be added. And you showed some, like, you know, the asset that you're using for your towers. That's pretty cool.
It's just for me, like, I really feel when you play the game, you do definitely get a sense that there is a little bit missing as far as visually. So I just wanted to let like you and the other students know, like, we're not planning to leave it as it is. We do have some plans to expand on how the game looks and feels right now.
And it's good. I think I'm glad that you talked about this. And I'm also happy about that you're thinking about particle systems, and on slide 8 where you talk about stuff that you're that's not quite refined, and it's exactly what you said is what I would basically talk about, which is your UI and all that stuff. You go back to your game now. Your UI, I think it needs a lot of love, just like I said to Michael. Even this screen, and it's also very different. For example, you see that your text, your font that you're using here is very different than everywhere else. You need to be consistent with across your entire game. So so pick a font, you know, for some of the stuff you're doing, and then stick to it. And think about, you know, how flat this looks and how static this is, right? Remember that this is mobile. You want it to flash. You want your objects to move, or to attract the user to play, right? So here it's very static, and you want to improve this when you go to mobile. So if you start the game for me for a second, and by the way, this applies to all your user interface. It was interesting when I saw this. When I saw this, I was like, this is like a human body, which is kind of neat. I like the idea of the human body being used as a tower defense game. But it's not really quite a human body, is it? It's got a bunch of bones that are knit together. So now it sparks my imagination. Once you showed me this, then I'm thinking that it's how could you make this different? right? What if you didn't just make this, and I'm just putting this out there to you, Alex, because I really want this to be something that you can show as your final, right? What if,
Mhm.
and I'm just brainstorming here and with the other people in the class as well, what if we actually made it into the human body? Like, what if you actually took this, your bones and the way you did this, and you think about, one of your levels is the arm, right? And the
Yeah,
bones
I
that you're
see.
using is the bones of the arm, and you're navigating through. So what you're doing is you're doing two things. It's an educational game where people are learning about the human body, right? And so you're kind of reducing the focus on the virus, but more you're improving the focus on learning about the anatomy, right? I know it's more of a would be more of a project for you. I'm not sure if you can get it to kind of pull it off this semester, right? Because I know it's a change in the middle of the semester, but consider this: if you were to do something like that where it's a human body, it would work with healthcare. It would work across not just a game, but an educational game, right? That can work for everybody, right? So that's kind of a really interesting idea that you have. The other option, if you don't want to make it a human body, and if just to make it more realistic, is make it an alien body, right? So this is something else I thought about. Like, what if you were to, to kind of put it together and, make this an alien body, right? So like you design the body of the alien, and it's, and it doesn't have to be human-like, right? It can be more interesting, a lot more leeway in terms of getting the anatomy right? So it's not more educational, but it's, again, looks like a body as opposed to like a path that's made of bones, right? So that's the kind of stuff that I want you to consider. I'm not going to force you, but I think it would make your game even that much more effective from a level design perspective. So it's interesting the way you did it, but making it more realistic would be better. Go back to your game for a second. I think also it's hard to see your health elements and all that kind of stuff. I think you need to make the health bars bigger.
Yeah,
if you're
I
gonna go
did
from
mention
this
that.
size. Yeah, I
for
think that's
the
something that
areas
needs
of
to be-
refinement.
User interfaces we've talked about before. I think your entire user interface needs to be revamped in terms of the way your buttons and your display is set up. Especially when it goes to mobile, it's gonna need a complete overhaul. I really like the way that you did your mini map, how it's black, and it only shows the areas that you can look like. The idea that you can switch around from left to right, click your right or left, yeah, this idea is neat, but then you should switch your mini map too.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true.
Because-
Yeah, that's true as well.
So
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that you want to do. I think there's a lot of variation here, huge potential for this kind of idea, and especially since it can work with something like an educational type of game. I think is lots of potential here for the use of your elements. But also even the placement, the way you've placed your cubes on the bones. You don't have to place your cubes. Remember, what you can do is you can make it so that you can create almost like an effect where you show possible node placements, right? And the fact that you didn't use nav mesh and you went to waypoints, that's fine. Like it's okay. It's I think it works for your game because they're just straight, kind of straight paths, right? So I think where you have to work, because it's a tower defense game, is your turrets. I think your turrets, although are a nice idea, right, as an example. So put a turret down, and then again, like I'm not sure if you can zoom in there. Maybe you can do that for the in the editor. If you go back to the editor and show me your asset for your turret for a second. Now, I know I'm focusing on this a lot, but I'm here. I'm trying to help out, right?
No, I completely agree. You want like the asset itself or the
show me the asset. Show me the asset, right? Because again, if this is one of your final assets, you got to consider what you're doing, right? So I'm not sure, and I'm just putting it out there. I'm not sure that your asset matches the game. I'm not sure that it does.
I agree with you there.
I think what you can do is you can find another asset or make one, right? Now I know making one is could be outside of your scope right now for different reasons, right? But I think that, it's because it's the type of game that it is, it looks very mechanical. So in order for you to make it so that it works, there's two possibilities again. One, you change so it looks very mechanical, right? Very mechanical. So I want you to think about, brainstorm how this can work in a human body, right? So some stuff you can think about is don't use a tower, kind of some kind of turret like this. Think about it being a nanite, or something like that. Like you're actually injecting the human body or the alien with a nanite, some kind of robot that actually does the attacking, similar to the fantasy game that we saw earlier today, right? I'm not sure if you were here for that, but with a fantasy tower defense game, you use actual fantasy characters. Think about using some kind of nanite or robot to kill the virus, right? Because maybe that makes sense. Otherwise, what's the lore behind using this tower defense, this tower, or this turret? It doesn't make any sense. Do you know what I'm saying? So even though it's nice asset, I'm not sure that it matches with your aesthetic, right? So that's why
I agree with you completely.
Yeah, so just think about swapping it out. I think you got lots and lots of opportunities here to move it around, right? So, and I think those are the things that I want to give you from a feedback perspective. Otherwise, I thought you did very well, and I think your idea is great. I think you should continue iterating on it, and I'm looking forward to the final version of your game.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback.
No problem. All right, I think that ends it there. I'm going to upload the marks right now for you too, Alex. So you should have all your marks up and running too. So I think everyone's got their marks now for the checkpoint, whoever presented anyway. I think there is one group, I don't know why, but their mark is not showing up for some reason. And I'm not sure why it's like that. Let me see if I can make every group select. I think that did it. Or you have multiple submissions, that's why. So that's why you had it. But otherwise, yeah, I think that for everybody that I've seen so far today, I really think that you guys, did a great job. And I think that it's, I think it's something that you guys have been, kind of the stuff I've seen today, all right, is great. I'm really happy with your quality of work. And I can tell you that I've seen a lot of presentations over the last couple of days, right? Because this is like presentation week or, midterm week or whatever for not across different colleges actually, which is interesting, right? So I'm seeing, presentations from, colleges. I'm seeing presentations from universities. And I think some of the presentations I've seen today are some of the best presentations I've seen at all this year so far, 2021. So I think you guys did a great job in terms of your concept and bringing your concept to life. I think that's something that you did really, really well. And there's a lot of really good stuff in there. And there's also some things you need to improve. Mostly, I think chiefly from everybody that I've seen today, and this is for the third video that I'm doing here, it's the PowerPoint slides are not great in general. I've only seen a couple of slides. I think yours were pretty good, Alex, and Michael's were great as well. But for the most part, most of the slide decks were okay to not so good. All right, and I want you to go away from using business slides. I want you to go, leave behind very wordy and text-heavy slides, and add more image elements, more moving things. It's a multimedia kind of mode that we're in, right? So I want to see more of that. You're making a game demo, not a business presentation. I keep saying that to you guys throughout the entire time together. So that's one general comment. And the other general comment that I can make is that user interfaces are the things that suffered the most that I've seen over 11 presentations that I've seen today, right? User interfaces were difficult. And why? Because they have to match the aesthetic, and all that kind of stuff as well. I've seen some really great games today, and some a lot more work on some, and less work on others. In terms of user interfaces, and I think that's generally something that everyone needs to improve. Lighting is also an issue for most games. Lighting, shadows, and how that can make a game really look more realistic than not having good lighting and all that stuff. Some of the best lighting and use of the camera was Daniel's game. I think his game was great in terms of the field of view that was used and the way that the camera action was used between scenes. I think that was really good. But again, I think generally lighting was a problem. So I think those are general comments. Otherwise, keep your eye on what's happening next, right? So again, when we come back, your third playable is going to be due, and there's more requirement there. 75% of all your assets should be up to date by your third playable. Make sure you go through and with detail and check off each of the items that I've asked you to do for that third playable. Also look back at the first playable and second playable and make sure that if you missed anything from those, that you've included it in the third playable, because at the end of the day, it's going to make you come closer to your the final version of this game that you're making. Okay. And then as we move towards your alpha release, which is the key, your alpha release is almost like early access. You know, think about you releasing, potentially shipping that game, the alpha release, right? So that's where I want you guys to go with it, right? And if you're like, wait, shipping, yeah, that's how close you're going to be with your alpha. Almost a shippable state, not a beta, the alpha, right, is where I'm looking at. So make that as good as you can make it. And your beta is going to iterate on your alpha, and then your final release is going to be something that you can actually potentially use as a final product or even put on Steam. Okay, that's the idea in your mind. That's how it should be. Okay, so that's the final thoughts from me. Again, don't forget to do your weekly report. That's what I'd ask. And that's it for me. I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to say some final things. Enjoy your time off. Play a little bit of Valheim if you can. If you haven't had a chance to do that already, it's a really great game made with Unity. And we'll see you when you guys get back, and we'll be doing mobile. All right. Thanks so much, guys. For people who want to stick around for questions, I'll stick around. But otherwise, I'll stop recording this one, and I'll put the recordings up on Blackboard later today.